everyone. Welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how loud I come into headphones, apparently, in Toyotas.
You were blasting me out.
I do talk loud. With that, my friends, welcome to the podcast. My name's Tyler, and this is episode 344.
Yes.
Of the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. And joining me on Halloween is Mr. Jack Skellington himself, Mr. Jimmy Jack Jet. I don't know if you can be Jimmy Jack.
I can't.
That guy's cooler.
Yeah,
so.
he definitely is.
Mr. Skellington, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
Nice.
I'm doing better now that I know a bunch of skeleton jokes.
Yeah, there you go. Congratulations. You're welcome.
I don't remember any of them, though. So, no.
So I'll just tell them to you again next year.
Okay, that works. So happy Halloween to everybody out there. Hopefully everybody's enjoying the holiday and is going to have fun tonight. So yeah, everybody, welcome back, everybody. You're hearing and listening to us after we've edited out something, so you'll get to hear that edit at the end of the episode. Good luck editing this episode, Jimmy.
Oh, it'll be good. It'll be fun.
Oh, man.
And it's going to be hilarious because you don't know what I edited until you listen to the end of the episode.
I know, right? What we're laughing about. Oh, man, the joys of podcasting, the fun stuff we get to do with podcasting, including today's episode.
Yes.
So another thing where we recorded and it got edited and turns out it was a really long recording, so it got edited a lot, and it's now 2 episodes. So we got to sit down with 2 really cool guys, but before we get into any of that, you guys have until trick-or-treating time tonight for Austin to get signed up on the gift box tier.
Yes.
So whenever Austin from Irate 4x4 decides that he's going to go out trick-or-treating, whatever time that is, that's what time the gift box tier is going to shut down. So make sure that you guys are in. If you wanted to do anything with the gift box tier, get in, sign up for the first time ever, bump up your tier, whatever it is that you're doing that before Austin goes out trick-or-treating. If you don't know what time he's going to go out trick-or-treating, call him. His number is
916-345-4744.
There we go. And I'm just going to forward the phone number now over to his phone for today. No, yeah, make sure you guys are signed up if you want to get in for April's gift box, Tyler's box in 6 months. You have to get signed up before the end of the day today. And then we've already got some goodies planned and getting on the works for April.
Absolutely.
So if you do bump up your tier, make sure you go back and cancel your old tier. So when you go up into the gift box tier, they're all set up so that...
Just say if you move any tier, if you're moving up or down, you have to go and cancel. We can't do it. I've already had somebody ask me. Mm-hmm. We can't do it. This is on PayPal on your side. You have to go into PayPal and you have to cancel the automatic payments for that tier. And then you go onto Irate 4x4 and you move to whatever tier you want to go into. Yep. But it's something we can't do. That's on your end on PayPal.
Yep. We set up all the tiers so that, there's the 5, the 10, the 20. The 5 is your base tier, and then the $10 tier is everything you get in the 5 plus the giveaway, the monthly giveaway.
Correct. Yep.
And then the $20 tier is everything in the $10 tier plus the gift boxes.
Yes.
So if you bump up tiers, you can keep paying if you want. We'll take your money and buy beer with it.
We'll stock the fridge.
Stock the fridge in here. Or you can cancel your tier since the one you're bumping up to includes your old one as well. So
yeah.
For the giveaway this month, what are we doing? Oh, the Extreme Tire Repair Kits.
Yeah. So you have one more day to get in for the Extreme Tire Repair Kits donated by Morflate. There's 2 of them up for grabs. We have those include the tire plug kits and the fancy all metal tools and some valve stems. Also the Kobe valves and the
Colby valves.
Colby. Colby.
Yep.
Colby valves.
There we go.
And the glue treads.
Yep.
Did I say that one correctly?
I think so. Can you say it again?
Glue treads. Which we've hounded on this entire month.
Yeah.
So
really, really cool product.
Absolutely.
So check them out for sure. One more day to get in on all of those good stuff. We did have a question, I believe, from the super producer. We had talked about a SoCal token being hidden. Is that the one that we put up recently?
I believe so.
Okay.
It's the one I sent you.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't put up the GPS coordinates on a map to see where it was. But super producer went on the public coordinates page and asked where the SoCal coordinates were. And I was like, they're in the Snail Squad page.
Yes.
So, and I just wanted to make sure that was correct and it wasn't some other one.
Super producer should have access to that.
He should. Mm-hmm. We pay him enough. He better have access to it. So,
and small hint to anybody out there, the whole public of listening to this, I have a video on the location that this is hidden. So if you're up on some of the snail trail videos and locations and trips I've done, you might be able to figure an area out.
Spider Lake isn't in SoCal.
Shh.
Okay. That's funny.
Let's see. We have the giveaway for next month already lined up.
We do.
And it is one of the 3 drawer systems from Gear Wrench. They were having a massive sale just the other day on Amazon, and we saw them and we're like, these things are so awesome.
They're pretty rad.
Gear Wrench, Corey, can we get one for the giveaway? And he said yes, shockingly. I don't know why. But so we've got one of those coming in the mail that we're going to send out to some lucky person.
I think it was his pain meds.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got
poor guy.
No.
Yeah, he must be on some good drugs. He's been saying yes to us a few times lately.
Yeah.
I think they're around $300. I think they're around $300 when they were on sale on Amazon.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and then I think they retail for like $500 or something.
Yeah, it was like between $450 and $500, something like that.
But he was saying that there's an excess of them, and they're available in like retail stores at Home Depot or some of the other stores out there that carry Gear Wrench. I wonder if I go into Napa or Reeby's a lot, and they carry
Napa carries Gear Wrench.
Yeah, and I wonder if they have them as well. I don't know. Anyways, he said that they're probably going to be a pretty good discount at those retail stores as well. So if you want to get in for one of the giveaways, you can do that on the Snail Squad forum. Or if you don't care, you can just go out and buy one right now, and they're probably around $300.
They're super handy to have. It's a blown mold case with 3 drawers in it, and then the top also pops open. So you have a full socket set, wrench sets, extra things, pliers, screwdrivers, hex key, hex bits. There's a lot of different stuff in there. And since it's in this kind of cool blown molded drawer case, you can literally just kind of pick up this box and take it over to your car while you're working on it. Or you can pick up the box and, throw a little ratchet strap or bungee cord around it and throw it in your rig for a trail ride.
Does the lid not have a latch?
The lid has a latch, but the drawers I don't think have a latch.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so if you just throw a strap around it, then that keeps the drawers closed.
Good.
Yeah. But really cool case. $400 to $500 retails depending on where you're looking at them at, but they are on sale right now since there's an overstock of them.
Yeah.
And so we were like, let's talk about the sale. And so if you don't want to wait and see if you win the giveaway, it's a pretty damn good price. It was $350, so you can find them at places on sale. So do some hunting around, see what you can find. Really cool toolkit that's at least going to be on sale for, I believe, a little bit here. So.
Yeah, probably. If you find them for a screaming deal somewhere, tag us. Yeah. And we'll share it, and then we can help everybody else out. Grab one as well. Crowdsource some sales. Yes. One other item of business that I know of, episode 350 is coming up quick. Oh, it is. Yeah. And we have the questionnaire. So if you guys want to get a hold of us or ask us some questions, you can do that in the Google form down in the description. And we will be answering those questions on episode 350 with our significant others. Cool. I like it. That's all I got. Yeah. I'd say we should jump in because this is a long episode. It's a doozy. But it's not about the doozy. So no, it's not. No. We got to sit down with these two gentlemen. God, how long was that ago now? Probably almost a year ago. A year and a half? On episode 220. 220. I think we said 240 in the beginning of the episode. But
Yeah, episode 220 is when we sat down with them last. We got to sit down with John Arns and Merlin to talk about the trail, Rubicon Trail history.
Correct.
And a lot of the history surrounding the trail. And so we wanted to sit down again and kind of pick their brains about a lot of the names of points of interest along the trail. How did those places get those names? What is the significance of this point of interest kind of thing? And so we've been wanting to do this one for a while. We finally got to do it.
Yeah. At first, we wanted to drive the trail with them.
Yes, our original goal.
All the obstacles and discuss them. And I think we gained so much more information by sitting down at the dinner table for the most part.
And giving them alcohol.
And giving them alcohol and discussing it. Because when we were out there, we would have not been able to get some of the information. I think we would have skipped over a lot because it would have caused us to stop and walk around and look at things, where when we're just discussing it, we're talking about, who lived in the area, whose cattle is roaming in these areas. So we learned a lot. I think we learned a lot more by not actually being out on the trail, unfortunately, but it's an outstanding episode. We covered so much. I think we're breaking this up into 2 episodes. We'll have today's episode coming out, and then one on November 1st tomorrow. We'll have part 2.
Yep.
Today, we discussed the start of the trail to pretty much Little Sluice.
And that we tried to do it as best as we could in real time, so that as you're traveling the trail, you go out on the Rubicon, you can pull up this episode. So it takes about an hour and a half to get to Little Sluice, and that's about how long this section of the podcast is.
That's absolutely true.
We didn't intend for it that way. I'm joking.
Get ready for the next episode to be roughly 6 hours.
Exactly.
That's not true.
No. I agree 100%. There's some really cool stories that came out in this episode that we didn't hear about in the last episode with them about the Rubicon history. There's so much up there with this trail, so much history, a lot of different stories, a lot of different people had impacts on the trail. And I'm starting to kind of notice that there's a trend in the people that had a lot of impact on the trail are now being remembered through different points of interest and names along the trail.
Yes.
So pretty cool. I'm glad that we have coined our term for a schneebling obstacles.
Yes.
That's funny. You guys will hear about that one too. I think probably in tomorrow's episode.
Part 2.
But anyways, hope you guys enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. Huge thank you to John and Merlin for taking and making the time to sit back down with us to talk into some microphones for a few hours. Huge thank you to John for supplying dinner. The dinner was great.
100%.
Letting us pick through his whiskey collection.
That he has a fantastic whiskey collection.
Yes, he does. And Barb for letting us, take over the house for a while in the kitchen, and it was a lot of fun. Hopefully everybody enjoys it. Hopefully this is another episode to literally go down in the history books and get this information out of these 2 gentlemen who have a ton of information to give, so that it can live on forever now.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I found interesting about this, and I'm sorry to delay in the start a little bit, is that names seem to fade because people don't know the history behind it.
The significance
of it. And I think that because what we're doing and kind of talking about what the names are and what the obstacle and why they're named that and who it is, I hope that the names continue to stick and we can, forever for the most part. So
like the Wickender bypass.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Without further ado, everybody grab your favorite drinks, grab your favorite snack food. This is a long episode, but it is so worth it. You're going to love sitting down and listening to these 2 guys. Grab it all, hang out for the next hour and a half, and we'll be back tomorrow with part 2. Oh, welcome back, ladies and gentle ladies. We are here with another awesome, fun episode here on the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. We have 2 fun guys back. That's not to be confused with fun guys, like
the mushrooms.
The mushrooms.
Okay. Yeah.
Nothing? Nobody? All right, whatever. This is why Jimmy does the jokes. No, last time we got to sit down with these two gentlemen, we were out on the trail, just past really the spillway right there. And people didn't believe that we were actually out on the trail, and then they heard vehicles driving by in the background. But we're here again with John, Arns, and Merlin. John, say hi to everybody so people remember what you sound like.
Hi, everybody.
Very cool. Merlin.
Same thing. Howdy, everybody.
Yeah. I must say, I think we had more requests for just to have you come on, Merlin, come back on the show and just read a dictionary.
Okay.
Just because they wanted to hear your voice.
Well, we can do that.
We could start a whole nother podcast.
I know, right?
Let me go get a dictionary for you.
Yeah.
Today, Merlin covers the A's.
Yes.
We can probably find something better than that.
Oh, man. So welcome back, guys. Huge thank you for sitting down last time. People loved it. They loved hearing about the history of the Rubicon Trail. There's so much history up there. And we sat down and we talked for an hour and a half, 2 hours out there.
Something like that, right by the side of the trail.
Yep. Yeah. We had to move, I think, twice to stay in the shade.
That's all right.
And I know that there's still a ton more history that we could get into. But today, we thought it would be a lot of fun to go through and hear some of the stories as to why the obstacles are named the way they are on the trail.
Okay.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I'm game.
Your game?
Let's do it.
All right. So should we start at Loon Lake or should we start over at Airport Flat?
Well,
then work our way eastbound.
The real trail's Airport Flat. So that's my vote.
Okay.
Where's that?
Where's Airport Flat? He refuses to go that way because he doesn't like the forest road into Wentworth Springs Campground.
It's too bumpy. If it's going to be bumpy, I want it to be an obstacle.
I can see that, but that is the traditional trail.
All right. Let's start there then.
All right. So let's start at Airport Flat Campground. Is there a reason why Airport Flat Campground is called that? Was there an airport there at some point?
Yes, there was.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the era.
Would have been post-World War II.
Right. And the military had a kind of like a rehab center there. Kind of related to shell shock victims.
Okay.
They had a lot of military people there that were living there.
Make sure you're talking into.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
There we go.
There we are.
But anyway, and so there was a small airport there, and they kept contact with Mather. I think it was Mather at the time. But they had a specific job up there to do something with aircraft in the air.
Okay.
But anyway, there was a small airport there.
Okay. So did that just kind of transition to a campground, or did it become a campground to help kind of house the people that were working at the airport?
No, it wasn't. The campground was not in conjunction with the military camp.
Okay.
If you're going northbound on Wentworth Springs Road, right through that area, and just past the turnoff to go into the campground, Wentworth Campground, start slowing down because about 150 feet past that, look to the left and you'll see a bunch of cement foundations, and that's part of the old military camp.
Oh.
So there's still part of it right there.
Okay. I've never noticed the concrete foundations there before.
Well, kind of look through the brush.
Yeah.
Get out and walk around for a couple of minutes and you can find it.
Okay. Cool.
I think the campground is just named that because that area started being called Airport Flat because the airport was there and it was a big flat area where there were bunkhouses where these post-traumatic stress guys from World War II were staying, and that was part of their rehab.
Interesting. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, because the campground is a Forest Service installation where the other camp was military.
So they're across the road from each other.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, Airport Flat is a PG&E campground, right? Or is it SMUD?
Forest Service.
It is Forest Service.
Yeah, it's all Forest.
Okay. I thought that there's a sign in there that said that PG&E helped build it or something like that later on. But
Well, that could be because sometimes these water districts kick in money with the Forest Service, and so these things are built in conjunction with each other. But
gotcha.
It's more likely to be SMUD, I think.
Right.
Okay.
SMUD.
Okay. Cool. So moving from Airport Flat Campground, the next real big area is Wentworth Springs.
Yeah, I would say that's correct. From there, you actually go back onto the paved road for a short distance until 1405 turns.
There is another one in there.
Oh, yeah?
From the airport campground, most people stay on the blacktop road and go right past it. But the real trail takes off just to the south side of the bridge.
Yep.
And then you go back there a ways, and there's a Francis cow camp.
That's right.
All through the trail, let's see, right after the gold rush, thousands of people came into the Coloma area.
Oh, I can imagine.
And they all needed food. And so all these farmers come from Switzerland and so on. They came up to this area we're going to be talking about. And that's where they raise their hogs or their cattle or the sheep, whatever. And Francis Cow Camp is the first one you come to. That's maybe a mile from the bridge as you're going easterly.
As you head off on that right turn at the Y there. Okay.
Right. Well, just before you cross the bridge at Railroad Flat, you turn right, and there's got a little campground along the left. And you do a little climb, and Francis Cow Camp will be on your right at about the same place where you turn lefterly. The trail goes left, and it crosses a bad spot that got a lot of history of Gurley Creek.
Okay.
The bridge.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have a bridge all the time and got washed out over the years. But anyway.
And of course, the bridge is back now.
At Gurley Creek?
Yeah. So that bridge was washed out for years, and we used to drive down into the creek and cross the creek up until, and I'm not sure when it washed out, but I think it was 78.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I don't remember it either. I just know that that's when the big flood was up there. So I think 78 flood, it washed out, and there was no bridge until 2014 when the county put
one back in,
put a new bridge back in. So there's a new bridge there now that's probably less prone to washing out. So you don't have to go through the creek. And the creek was, you had to be careful because the creek was, 2 feet deep most of the year, but it could get 3-4 feet deep. It could get pretty deep.
Yeah. Is that the big red girdered bridge that's there right now?
It's actually rust girdered.
Rust girdered.
Yeah,
there you go.
Well, that's intentional. It's a rust patina, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a rust protectant, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool. So we have the Gurley Creek. We've got the Francis Cow Camp. And then we get up into Wentworth Springs?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, there's more. But wait, there's more, you guys.
You're still on the dirt road at that point. When you come out and you hit the T intersection with the blacktop road that most people will be coming on, you turn right. And as you turn right, you go a very short distance. Now, if you look to the right, you'll see some buildings on the right.
Okay.
And that section has been known by different names throughout the years. Most people, and on most maps, it's called Lawyer's Cow Camp.
Okay.
But I don't think Lawyers ever owned it.
Lawyer's an old Georgetown family.
Okay. Got it.
And that run cattle up there.
That run cattle up there. Archie Lawyer's probably the last of them at this point.
I don't know what year, but I think Wagner's, a family by the name of Wagner, originally had that. And I understand that they bought that from the Indians. That's a big meadow area there, kind of a swampy area.
Yeah.
And then over the years, the two Gurley brothers, I think they had a place there that it used to be called Gurley's.
Okay.
It's like Gurley Creek. And someplace along the line, I don't know, did Wagner's ever go back in there? Anyway, they still owned it, but it was leased to different people. But Lawyers had that for many years, and so that's why it's got that name.
Gotcha. So Lawyers Cow Camp right there.
All the agricultural residents of El Dorado County, and you can, there's the Veer camps and the Bockies and the Lawyers and the Francises all had summer camps all through the Sierras.
Wow. Okay.
The Tells. And they would run their cattle right up the road from, during the winter, they would graze them, down Coloma or Placerville or something like that. And every summer,
drive them back up.
They'd take them back up and summer graze them up there and then back down. So they lived there and had camps there. And that's where many of the early buildings up there came from.
That's funny. You say a bunch of those names, like the Veer camps and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that area. Oh, I know that area. And it just never occurred to me that it came from the families that were settling the areas.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I've got another one for you when we get further up.
Okay. Cool.
Well, that reminds me of, you mentioned Veer camps. As you're leaving Rubicon Springs and you're going towards Tahoe, as you get out, maybe halfway towards Tahoe.
You're jumping way ahead in the trail here, Merlin.
Oh, you're going that far. Okay. We'll talk about that later.
We won't get there till midnight.
Oh, okay. We'll be there later. Okay.
So after the Lawyer's Cow Camp, then do we hit Wentworth Springs?
Oh, probably.
The only thing in between there really is Neck Meadows, and I don't know anything about the history of Neck Meadows, why it's called that, or
I don't either.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wentworth Springs, we're here at Wentworth Springs, and there's obviously a bunch of history there.
Yeah, so there's really kind of two Wentworth Springs. There's really only one Wentworth Springs, but there's Wentworth Springs, the group of privately owned cabins that are owned by the Dorota family now, and there's Wentworth Springs Campground. So to be clear, we're talking about old Wentworth Springs.
Yeah, the old Wentworth Springs, the privately owned group of cabins now.
Right.
Yep. So what happened there? I mean, was that just kind of a part-way stop in getting up to Tahoe for most people? Yeah,
that's exactly what it was, and it had a service station there. So people would drive there. You could buy gas there, and they had a little mechanic station. And did they board people there? Did they have a hotel?
Yes, back in the early days when they opened, that was what their primary purpose was.
Nice.
It was like a motel as you're getting out on the highway.
Okay.
You could pull in there. They had plenty of horses, plenty of horse feed, barns, and plus they could put people up, and they had a good reputation for food.
Nice. So now, if we go there now, can we get Morgan to work on some of our rigs or as a mechanic as we're coming through?
And you may not know this, but Colby's a hell of a cook.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so you might get food too.
Nice. Perfect.
On the last episode we talked about, and maybe I'm jumping ahead a little on the trail, you talked about some ledgers. Was that at Wentworth Springs?
Yeah, that was at Wentworth Springs. And yeah, the Dorota family has owned that. The current Dorota family are descendants of the Rose family, and Charlie Rose owned it since the 60s.
There was another one in there. Rose came in. I was thinking about in the early 70s. That was the main trail in. At that time we hadn't started going in the Loon Lake side. We'd go up Wentworth Springs Road, and we had a whole bunch of rigs going in, in the jamboree, and they raised a lot of dust. And the guy that owned it, and I don't think that was Rose, seemed like it was a guy before, but anyway, he would come out there and yell at us and wave his arms, get everybody to slow down, because at that point there was still an old hand gas pump out there. Yeah. We drove right by that, between that and the house. And I remember he just used to come out there, so we get on the CB radios and tell people behind us, kind of slow down, give it a little break from the dust.
Yeah. Nice.
So the ledgers for the Wentworth Springs Hotel there, excuse me, were passed down to the different owners, and the Dorotos kept them in the A-frame there. And I remember looking at them, and they had entries back into the early 1900s.
Wow.
From people that visited the hotel. Someone broke in there in the early 2000s, I believe, and stole the ledgers, and they're gone. So if anybody listening to this podcast comes across those, those are history gold.
Yeah. They're really priceless. I mean, it'd be cool if we can get those back. Whoever's out there.
It would be. And I suspect the Dorotos at this point, who are the rightful owners and cherish them, would just be happy to have them back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people would be happy to have those back and kind of have that history back in the round. So cool. So after Wentworth Springs, we're pretty much getting to the Wentworth Springs campground. After that, is there stuff in between there?
There used to be. When the road was in the stages of being developed, when they got it fixed up pretty good as far as Wentworth Springs and just a little bit further, the U.S. Forest Service built a little cabin that was called the Ranger Station, and it was between Wentworth Springs and Wentworth Springs Campground.
Okay.
I don't know exactly where, because I don't think there's any remnants that I've ever seen, but
Somewhere in there, there's a little ranger station.
There used to be a ranger station.
Was that like a guard cabin?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Back in the old days, the Forest Service had guard cabins, and the guard cabins were staffed during the summer. I bet Merlin stayed in some.
Well, I've stayed in a lot of guard stations, but this, I read where this was actually called a ranger station, because back in those days, they didn't have a lot of Forest Service people. They had a ranger that the ranger would be the one to go out and check on grazing permits and stuff like that. And that way, and that was also, there was a phone there. That was the easterly section of phone line, little crank phone, one wire, number 9 wire going down to wherever it went to.
The Forest Service had these guard stations, and they would send. It wasn't a lookout. It was different.
Okay.
And that guard station, like Merlin said, was just a guy who staffed that area, and the phone service had their own phone system that they would tie into, and there's still a guard station on Ice House Road. As you are the section of Ice House Road that leads to Loon Lake.
Okay.
And if you look to your right, when you're driving up through, there's a little cabin down there that's Schlein Guard Station by the old RV dump. And the cabin's still there.
Is it down in the meadow?
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen,
Yeah.
There's a meadow and a little building.
Like a little 10 by 12 house.
Yeah. Every time I go, I'm like, wow, that'd be really cool to see whatever that
for
was.
The summer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Schlein Guard Station.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so we got Wentworth Springs Campground, which is kind of like I think a lot of people, as they're coming in, they consider that as the starting point of the Wentworth Springs Trail into the trail nowadays.
Yeah, and the 0.0 marker is there. The reason the 0.0 marker is there is because up until that point, it's a county road.
Okay.
And past that point, it's not on the road inventory. It's a county claimed public road.
Gotcha. Which is the designation that the Rubicon Trail is under, correct?
That's correct.
Cool. So we get from Wentworth Springs Campground. As we start heading into the trail from this side of this entrance of the trail, we have Post Pile. Is there a spot, before we get to Post Pile, is there a name or the spot where the trail kind of splits and down to the right is the dirt trail and up left as you go up that granite hill ledge and then come down the other side and meets back together?
Well, there's a split. Before you start up the hill to the Post Pile, you're kind of going into swamp, what springtime would be swampy area.
Yeah, swampy area, yeah.
If you're going by there now, you'll see some barbed wire fencing on the right. And just for a very short distance, but you'll see the reason for the barbed wire there, and maybe 1 or 2 steel posts, is to keep people out. Because that used to be the trail that went from that part of Wentworth Springs up to and came out by Tim Green's place.
Okay.
It went all the way to the kiosk.
Okay.
Went into the Loon Lake area.
So I've heard about that trail before. I never knew where they connected at, where that started at right there. So, okay.
That was open before travel management went into effect. People could travel throughout the national forest. But then after travel management, or about that time, a video came to light that the Forest Service saw about a vehicle going from there up towards Loon Lake. And it was a swampy area and the mud was flying and so on. And we as four-wheelers took a bad rap and a lot of bad publicity. So the Forest Service wanted that shut off.
Gotcha.
So that's when you got little barbed wire down there. And so you're looking closely at that barbed wire will be right by the edge of the road.
Yeah. It's right there as you start entering that little swamp area. So
if you do get up in there, if you were to get up in there, I'm not suggesting anybody should. Back when you could go through there, most people didn't traverse it till August because it was wet and there's beaver dams up there and the water was over the trail. It was a mess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, every year when we go in to maintain that section of the trail, we have to wait until June, July, a lot of times to get all the water to dry up there so we can get in and clean out the dissipators and the rock traps. So, cool. So that's a fun little area there. Nice little split in the trail. And then we, shortly after that, we start coming up on Post Pile. And, what was the name you called the first ledge there?
First Blood?
Yeah, First Blood.
Heard a lot. I've heard many people call it First Blood for many years.
Okay.
That first tough spot after you past the post pile corner.
Yeah, that's a fun obstacle there. So it's got a nice fun ledge there. Why is that obstacle called post pile?
As you're going uphill and you look to the right, you'll see an unusual rock formation, it's kind of a columnar. I'm not a geologist, so I can't. I've heard the names of it and what they call that, but people sometimes will stop and just walk over to these columns that are all tied together, and so it looks like a bunch of posts up and down, rather than horizontally. But
so it looks like a pile of posts.
Yes,
it does. Have you post pile?
Yeah. Do you know about Post Pile National Monument?
I don't.
Post Pile National Monument is over near Mammoth Lakes in Reds Meadows, and just outside of Reds Meadows, and it has a post pile formation exactly like what we're talking about, but it's a national monument, and that post pile formation there is probably 8 or 10 times the size of the one at Wentworth, but the one at Wentworth is just as spectacular.
It's impressive. I mean, you definitely, as you're driving up on it, it's very noticeable that these rocks almost look like they're growing out of the ground in these columns that are all tightly packed together.
And I think it's called the Devil's Post Pile.
Okay,
or
nice.
At least on some maps and terminology, Devil's Post Pile.
Got it. So we got post pile there, named because of the rock formation next to it. Is there anything between post pile and as we get into the intertie?
There's a couple of things there I mean,
there's a couple of fun obstacles there. I just don't know if they have names or anything.
I don't think they have names, but of note over there is the El Dorado Jeep Herders plaque.
Yep.
That's been there since the early 80s. And also Lost Sluice. Most people, are you familiar with the Lost Sluice Trail?
No.
Okay, so the old trail used to swing around. Let me think about this.
As you're going east, it'd be just before you get to the El Dorado Jeep Herders plaque.
That's right.
Before you start climbing up, there goes the El Dorado Jeep Herders track.
There you go. That's better, Merlin.
But anyway, that's where he's trying to think that it takes off.
Yeah, so it takes off. The trail takes off to the right before you get to that Jeep Herders plaque, and goes around the rocks back there. And if you look at the easement map, it's still on the map, so it's legal to travel it, and it goes to a spot called Lost Sluice.
Huh.
That's an obstacle that very few people know about.
Okay. I know that I've gotten a little lost back up there on those granite areas, and
it's easy to do.
I know that I've gone at the plaque. I've kind of followed what I think is the normal trail through there, and I know that at that plaque I've also gotten lost at the plaque there. So I wonder if I've ever ended up back at Lost Sluice before.
Well, if you're going eastbound, something is very noticeable. Just about the time you're out of it, the road swings and it's going pretty much north or a little bit northeast, and the road is built up with rocks on your left, maybe 5-6 feet. But right in that area, there's also a plaque on a large rock on the left. There's plaques all over this trail, but this is a plaque that John told me about one time when some lady was trying to find a relative that had this plaque in her family. But anyway, there's a plaque, and I can't remember what the name is on it.
Yeah, I don't remember the name either. I've got it documented somewhere.
But just past this plaque, maybe less than 200 yards, you get back on the main trail where you turn right
at the intertie right there where it connects.
Oh no, it's quite a bit before the intertie.
Okay,
maybe a quarter of a mile from the intertie.
Okay. Yeah, the only plaque I've ever noticed on that section of trail is the Jeep Herders plaque.
Yeah, there's one. Well, there's a couple. There's at Wentworth Springs Campground, Dana Holland placed one for
his daughter.
His daughter,
maybe?
I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's one there at Wentworth Springs Campground, and there's the one that Merlin's talking about on Lost Sluice. Got to be careful at that corner, Merlin. If you don't be careful coming off that rock at that corner there, you'll tip right over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that there's...
Is there a story there?
Yeah.
Not one I'm telling.
Well, and just before you get to there, if you look to your right coming down is another trail. It's an illegal trail, but a lot of people used to use it, and it takes you kind of easterly off of the Rubicon Trail, and you get back to the Rubicon Trail that's...
From the Loon side.
Yeah, from the Loon side.
Okay.
Just a very short little shortcut through there.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
A lot of people used to use that years ago.
Yeah, but not supposed to use it anymore.
Correct.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right, so from there, we're hitting the inner tie.
Sorry, we got to edit out for a second. Yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work because I don't have my money clip with me. It's in my pants that are in the closet. Help yourself. Okay, we're back.
All right.
Sorry.
No problem.
No worries. That's the joy of editing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody is ever going to know.
Okay.
So cool. So from there, we're pretty much getting into the inner tie, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
And into the I don't want to say the main part of the trail. It's where the two entrances, the westbound entrances, meet together.
That is correct. Yep.
So let's take a pause there on this journey through the trail and go over to Loon Lake and the spillway.
Okay.
So let's start at the chalet. What's the story behind the chalet?
The chalet was funded by SMUD
Okay.
in the 80s. And at that time there was a guy who worked for the Forest Service who was very much into cross country skiing, and he talked them into putting the chalet there. And
Wow. Okay.
So
That guy had some sway.
Right?
So when you want to put a dam in, you go to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, and FERC says yes or no.
It's a fun name.
It is. It's a fun freaking name. So they say yes or no. They give you the permit. When you go to FERC for a permit, when SMUD goes to FERC for a permit, everybody says, hey, wait a minute. You can't give them that permit. SMUD's costing us money. El Dorado County says, SMUD's driving on our roads and it costs us money. And the Forest Service says, SMUD's taking up our campgrounds and we have to put new ones up and it's costing us money. And the whitewater rafters say, hey, SMUD shuts off the water and ruins our recreation. They should pay us some money.
Yeah.
And on and on and on and on.
Okay.
So that's SMUD mitigation funds.
Gotcha.
El Dorado County gets SMUD mitigation funds. The forest also does. And back in the old days, nobody paid as much attention to it as maybe they should have. Mm-hmm. And when they did this, when the SMUD FERC mitigation came up in the 80s, no one raised their hand except for the guy who wanted the ski hut.
Chalet.
So he got his chalet. That's who built it, but it belongs to the Forest Service.
That's funny. Because you can go and rent out the chalet, right?
Yes and no.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yes, you can, but right now it's closed.
Exactly. Yeah, they shut it down during COVID. I don't think it's opened back up yet.
And it's actually happened to be during COVID, but it's a structural issue with the stairs.
Oh, okay.
And you can only rent out the upstairs.
That's right.
Because the bottom part is reserved for the Nordic Ski Patrol.
Oh, okay.
And that one guy.
And that one guy.
Well, he's part of the Nordic Ski Patrol.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
okay.
That Nordic Ski Patrol is formed under the auspice of the U.S. Forest Service.
Gotcha.
So,
And SMUD built him a nice warm house with electricity.
That's nice.
I know, right?
Thank you, SMUD.
Thank you.
For them. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the chalet, though, there's a big parking lot now.
There is.
How many years has that been open and there now for usage for tow trailers?
You're talking about the dirt parking lot?
Mm-hmm.
So the dirt parking lot was actually built in the early 60s when they built Loon Lake Dam.
Oh, okay.
But and really it's a hellespot for SMUD. That's what its intention is, but it's I don't know how long it's been used for parking there, but a long time.
Okay. Cool. Going down from there, we have the North Shore Campground. If people are looking to come in and hang out, that's a recently redone PG&E campground, correct?
Forest Service campground
from PG&E mitigation funds,
funded by SMUD mitigation funds.
SMUD mitigation funds. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we got that, and then we get down into the spillway where the kiosk is. So when did the kiosk go up there at the spillway, and what's the history behind the kiosk?
The kiosk was a gauging station. It used to be so they use gauging stations to measure how much water is flowing. Mm-hmm. And Gurley Creek had a gauging station there down the hill, maybe 100 yards, 200 yards?
Oh, a little more than that, but a few hundred yards. But it was still on that same side of that's Granite Creek coming out of the bottom of the dam right there.
Okay.
Right.
And so if you walk from you could walk to it in 10 minutes, but it's more than a few hundred yards. But the gauging station, people went in there in the wintertime from SMUD or the water utility companies. Mm-hmm. And so they had to have these survival cabins. So people walk in there in the snow. So this cabin was actually in conjunction with this gauging station, but it was a survival cabin.
That's right.
Okay.
And it sat there. It was there for years. When they took the gauging station out and made it electronic and put it in the flow gate at the kiosk itself.
Okay.
That building was not of use anymore. So SMUD gave it to it immediately when SMUD quit using it, it immediately went to the Forest Service. The Forest Service owned the people own the property that the Forest Service managed that is under that.
Yes.
I always say that carefully.
Yeah.
It's under that cabin. And the forest was going to tear it down. And the county said, hey, wait a minute, we can use that.
Yeah.
So Dana Holland and his group of tow people backed semis down the Hot Rock and took them all the way, took it all the way down there, semis and cranes, and they picked it up and put it on there and brought it up to where it is now. And that was a volunteer effort because Dana liked the Rubicon.
Yeah. Wow.
I can't imagine driving semis down that.
So Dana worked for, I don't know, probably 40 years, 50 years. So I don't know how long time for College Oak Towing.
Okay.
So he didn't own the tow company. He just worked there a long time. And he went to his boss and said, hey, can I borrow a crane and a tow truck and a bunch of guys and this and that and cribbing and whatever. And he loaded it up on the back of the truck and brought it up.
Well, it was a big low bed.
Yeah.
And so it's not real high. And because it was on a side hill, I understand that the building wouldn't stay there by itself. So they had to have some Jeeps on the uphill side with winches
to hold it on there.
Hold the building down onto the low bed until it got to a little more level ground.
Wow.
That's an operation.
Is there any pictures of this operation?
Oh, yeah. I don't have them.
No, I don't know who would have them.
I have some. I just don't have them
right now. Yeah. I want to check those out sometime. That'd be
cool. I can dig them out. They're in storage.
Yeah.
I would have assumed they would have just disassembled it and reassembled it.
Yeah.
But the story of just picking the whole thing up and moving it with a crane.
Actually, they tried to move it with a helicopter first, and it was too heavy. The helicopter hooked up to it, and it was too heavy, and the helicopter pilot called it off. So they said plan B was back a semi, a low boy down the Hot Rock and pick it up and drag it.
Wow.
Was that Skydance or who tried to move that? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I know it was a UH-1, which
okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah, okay.
To me,
that wouldn't have been Skydance, yeah.
But at first glance, a UH-1 is not enough to move a building.
No.
All right. So is there anything noteworthy between this kiosk there, the spillway, and Gatekeeper?
Historically, no, I don't think so. Not that I can think of.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into Gatekeeper. When did obviously its name is what, because it's supposed to be a keeper to keep people out of the Rubicon Trail?
To keep people out of the Rubicon Trail that maybe don't belong there.
Yes, there we go. That's a good way of putting it.
Just to let them know how hard it's going to get.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's a natural. It's not a man-made obstacle. It's a natural obstacle. And for many years, Gatekeeper, as soon as you left Gatekeeper, you turned left and you went through the swampy area.
We called it the alligator pit.
Alligator pit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen a quad in there that's the water was over the seat. There's only the handlebar sticking out because it gets pretty muddy and pretty deep there. But anyway, that got blocked off, the alligator pit. So people go through what we call the Gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. And I think over the years, the term Gatekeeper has kind of extended its name to a little longer area than it used to be. It used to be just that first big patch of rocks, but now it's kind of goes a little farther.
It's a couple patches of rocks now.
It is. So as you leave the second patch of rock, you take a right turn over Both tires are on boulders, and there's a boulder in front of you. You take a right turn in front of that boulder, and and there's a little dissipator there on the left. At that spot, we used to go left and go through that.
Right up through there.
Right through the muddy meadow.
Wow.
To a hard left.
Oh, interesting.
And that was the alligator pit, and that's what we called it.
So where did you get
no actual alligators
through? So then
I was going to say, where did alligator pit come from? Just the muddy mess, or
just the muddy mess?
Was there a random, big lizard one day?
I don't know.
So did you pretty much go straight through the alligator pit and then you end up in the bowl?
No, you took a hard right and joined back in the trail the other side of that perennial creek crossing there.
Gotcha.
That was only 100 yards through there,
That's
something
right.
like that.
That's right.
A short little alligator pit, but deep.
Okay. So with that, I mean, this section of the trail wasn't open. When did that section of the trail open up and start become an official part of the trail?
Oh, golly.
That was
in the 90s.
Oh, no. It was before that.
Are we talking about when Gatekeeper started being Gatekeeper, or went out?
From Loon Lake to the Intertie.
Oh, okay. Got it.
When did that open up?
When the whole Intertie section opened up. I think it was like late 70s.
Probably, because I was thinking through the 70s, I remember we used to come through Wentworth.
That's right.
So it might have been late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
I would agree with that. I don't remember the exact date.
But wasn't there also another route that didn't go over what you called the hot rock? Before the spillway was technically there, wasn't there another route from the... Actually,
there were roads all over the place in there, and there was... And yeah, you could go down towards the private property at the bottom of the bowl. There was an accepted route that people used to go down at the bottom and come up from the bottom of the bowl and bypass Gatekeeper.
Okay. Yeah, that's another one I've heard about, and I was like, oh, okay. Okay, so we got Gatekeeper, and we covered a little bit about the history of Gatekeeper and how the blasting went down in the last episode, so we won't need to cover that. But we got it's fun about the alligator pit, though.
Yeah.
I had heard about it before, but I didn't know that's the original route. I just thought it was kind of like an option or a bypass to Gatekeeper. But
no, it was the original route, and the route from that little turn that we're talking about and across that little perennial creek didn't exist before, and it came back in right there.
Okay, cool. So then from there, a couple hundred yards after Gatekeeper, we're looking at popping out and getting on top of the bowl.
That's right.
Is there any name for that little section right there as you're coming up out of Gatekeeper and coming up to the bowl?
Not to my knowledge.
No, but it's just another example of how the route has changed, because before you get to the bowl, you make a hard right, and you're still not quite to the top of the bowl yet. There's a big log right in front of you, and the trail used to go right through there and go in around a little further to the west. Oh. And there's a memorial there. Yep. Right alongside the road, because somebody died there in some sort of vehicle accident. I can't remember. But it seemed like
where are you talking about? Are you talking about after you get onto the bowl?
Just on the as soon as you get on the north slope of the bowl.
If you go straight instead of making a left down the hill, there's a little memorial there at the base of a tree. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, I don't understand exactly what you're trying to do.
Fair enough.
But anyway, there's memorials all over this area.
Yeah.
And you'll see there used to be a lot of different bypasses and so on.
A lot of different routes through there.
So anyway, what I mentioned, even though it's rather confusing to understand, there's another memorial there.
Okay. We like to call that section there Snail Hill.
Throwing ourselves
We're just throwing ourselves in there.
Oh, okay.
We're pulling what was that, a schlubby?
A schnebley.
Schnebley.
That's a schnebley.
Yeah. That little hill is right as you climb up to get to the bowl. Okay. Calling that Snail Hill. We'll see if it catches on one day. 10 years down the road, you'll be like, I remember
one of those guys.
Okay.
All right, cool. So we get up on top of the bowl, and that's really like the grandeur of the bowl, in my opinion. You come out of Gatekeeper, you get up on top of the north slope of the bowl there, and you're just like, wow,
look at this.
This is freaking amazing. This is pretty freaking cool. As you come down the face of the bowl there, and then across the bottom and back up the other side, is there anything of noteworthy along that traverse?
I don't think to speak of. There's some private property through there, and there's the S-turn and the beer tree.
Yeah, when you said top of the bowl. Now this is on the south side of the bowl, and you're going down the north side, north slope. About halfway down is when you're going from Forest Service to private property.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you're on private property for close to 1 mile before you go back on Forest Service.
Okay, that's good to know. I thought the private property was further down at where the fences are down at the bottom.
Yeah, those are
It's two separate pieces of private property.
Oh,
You're
okay.
on a piece of private property, looking down at the fence for another piece of private property.
Gotcha. Okay.
as you get into private property, as you're going down there, at that point, you'll see that you've been following the reflectors, the orange reflectors. When you're going about halfway down that hill, you come to an orange reflector that's got different colored reflector on each side, I think a white one. And so that doesn't mean anything to the average person going through there, but anybody that's looking for property lines, like the deputies need to know that. They want to know where you go on private property, because the rules that they enforce there would be a little bit different than they would be on Forest Service land.
That makes sense.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Is that why the beer tree was chosen to be down where the beer tree is? Or
the beer tree is a user created, and the private property owner of the beer tree has nothing to do with it.
Oh, okay. It was just people like, hey, let's meet down in the bottom of the bowl at this tree.
And it started becoming called the beer tree. And I think that's probably in the last 15 years too.
Yeah, just to place to stop and take a little break.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. After the beer tree, you're coming up the other side of the bowl. You've got you said the S-turn?
No, I call it that little S-turn on the north side of the bowl.
Oh, with the two ledges and the S-turn in the middle?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
And it's not really an S-turn, not too much of an S-turn during the summer. You can take about any route, but if you go in there in the winter, you'll take the S-turn.
Yeah, you're not going down the ledges.
Yeah, the ledges are a sled run.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so then we get the S-turn beer tree, and then we're at the steps, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So why are they called the steps?
All you have to do is look at them.
Yeah.
You see, they're ledges you have to climb. And a lot of times they get dug out deeper and deeper.
Yep. Yeah, it seems like they get dug out deeper. Then one year they get filled in real quick, and then it takes a couple years to get dug back out again. And so it's the evolution of the trail, the cycle of the trail, I guess.
I see a lot of people broken there. I've seen a lot of rear drive shafts and rear axles and pinions, and people don't realize how difficult that section can be and think they're going to drive right up it and make a mess out of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't hop.
Don't hop.
Don't hop. Hopping is bad.
Well, you mentioned when you first get to the top of the bowl on the north side, a lot of people, when they get there, they stop and take pictures there, and they look at the view like you were just describing.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when you get there, you'll see a tent or two over there by the ledges. And so if you stop and talk to those people, they're waiting for parts.
Okay.
Yeah. Nobody camps at the ledges if they don't have to.
No, yeah.
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 So from the ledges up towards Whalebones, is there anything of note in that stretch?
I would just say whalebone is the next significant thing there.
Yeah. Yeah, I whenever I'm out there with some people that have never been out before, and you get up to the top of the bowl, they go, "Oh, what lake is that?" And you're looking out, and you go, "Oh, that's still Loon Lake." And they're like, "What? Really?" And you just explain, "Yeah, it just wraps around and comes this way." So okay, so Whalebones, that's a fun stretch. It's a big rocky section down at the bottom, and then you got to turn and go up a really steep ledge. But the original way used to be sort of an off camber leaning towards the rock, which a lot of people don't want to do because they don't like off camber,
or maybe they do like
rocks.
their rear windows.
Yeah, that too, or hitting rocks. I think we covered it a little bit in episode 240, but let's revisit it this time as well. So why is Whalebones called Whalebones?
Whalebones is called Whalebones. Actually, Whalebones is called Whalebones because if you'll notice on the one side of the trail, there's a big stump, and the opposite side of the trail, there's a big tree. And it doesn't look much like a whale or whalebones. But when it was first dropped, which was in
2005.
Oh, no. It was.
That's when the county was working on the road.
Yeah, but it didn't get dropped until the DOT was working there. So it would have been 11 or 12, somewhere in there. when it first got dropped, all the branches were still on. It was a big old Jeffrey.
It's a big tree that's down right there.
Yeah, it's probably 6 foot or 7 foot diameter at the base. And when it was first dropped, all the branches were sticking out of it, which wasn't too noticeable. But the second you went in there in the winter, it looked like a whale skeleton.
Right.
And Scott Johnston and Desmond Caravella started calling it whale bones because that was their big snow whaling era. And I used to whale with them in the snow quite a bit, and I started calling it whale bones, and pretty soon everyone was calling it whale bones.
Yeah,
I hear some of the younger crowd now calling it Rainbow Rock.
Rainbow because there's paint on that rock. That one,
yeah, because of the paint on the rock
on the back window killer. Yeah, when we were on the Rubathon and I met Desmond, he said he was the one that coined that phrase, whale bones. I think I used it, and he was like, "Oh, you know that name?"
Well, everybody knows it now. But yeah, and he and Scott coined the phrase, and the week after they started calling it whale bones, I went whaling. I was up there snow whaling, and they're like, "Oh, look, whale bones." I'm like, "Hey, it does look like whale bones." And I started using it, and everyone.
But over the years, people looking for firewood have taken the chainsaws and cut those limbs off.
Yep.
So you don't get that whalebone look.
Effect.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it anymore. But it's a big tree that's there. So if you see that tree, you can kind of picture the branches coming off of that thing. So
or the whale's carcass.
Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely.
Cool. After whale bones, I mean, we're starting to approach the intertie. There's a couple little sections between whale bones and the intertie. Are any of those named of significance? Have any historical value?
Oh, no. I was just thinking.
Yeah, I don't think so. The only thing in there that I ever take note of is there was a lightning strike in there and a fire probably 20 years ago, and there's a whole section of new growth in there.
Yeah, that's true. If you're going through there's definitely noticeable new growth.
I remember, I think you were in there with the chainsaw dropping a lot of those dead ones.
I did.
A few years later.
I did. Yeah. The trees that got killed in the fire became hazard trees for the trail.
Yep. Nice.
And just past that area or close to where that fire was at, is where this road would take off. The one I talked about previously, that would take off to the west and just a short distance and to get back down on the Wentworth.
Down near Post Pile or the swamp area?
Yeah.
Yeah, by what, I forget what the name of that bypass is you call it.
Lost Sluice.
Yeah, Lost
Sluice.
Sluice.
Coming by Lost Sluice.
But anyway,
it was actually kind of a crossroads there. It went down to Lost Sluice in the direction that Merlin's talking about. But if you went the other direction and east, it would go into that sandy area of Pleasant Lake.
Okay.
Back in the day.
So one of those is open and you're allowed to go on, but one's closed? Is that what I was?
Neither of those are open.
Neither
just
of
Lost Sluice is.
Okay.
No, you have to stay on the trail.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so then we get up to the intertie, where we are now meeting ourselves from our earlier trip in through Wentworth Springs and Post Pile. Shortly after intertie is Ellis Creek.
That's right.
Yeah. What's the significance with Ellis Creek?
Well, let's see. Ellis is named after an old-time farmer family.
Okay.
Ranch family. Just like most creeks in the area. The peaks, the creeks, the swamps, they're all named after people.
Okay.
Anyway, what's the significance there? When we first started, when the Jamboree first started, there was no bridge. It was just a water crossing. And then they got a bridge.
2014.
Okay. Also, right there, as soon as you cross Ellis Creek, there's a gate. If you see a gate, and you go that road through that gate, and you come to another gate a couple of 100 yards up, and there comes to a log landing, and then there's a regular two-wheel drive trail road going from there on out. But because
does that go back up to McKinstry?
It goes by McKinstry and ends up where 14N05 meets at 14N34B, where the pavement takes off.
Gotcha.
Over by
the Wentworth Springs Road. There,
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. It does come back around there.
Yeah.
Another kind of significant thing right there is you have that toilet there. And so if you stop at the toilet and you look to the northwest on that road, you can see the other gate up there. And about halfway through there is Placer County line. So you're in El Dorado County when you're across Ellis Creek and where the toilet is at. But if you get up by the second gate now, you're
in Placer County.
And so from this point on for the trail, and you're going, it's an east-west trail, you're very close to the Placer County line for a while until we get a little further on. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Actually, of historical significance at Ellis Creek also is that used to be a private section. The whole section was private, and it was a summer grazing area for the Dobbs family in Auburn.
Okay.
So they grazed in there, Dobbs Ranch, and that's still a big name in Auburn. Jim Dobbs is the great grandson of the Dobbs that had that ranch.
Wow.
So they only kept 5 acres of it.
5 acres, yes.
So they kept 5 acres of it private.
Okay.
But it eventually it sold and it went to Bohemia Lumber Company.
That's right.
And then it passed through a couple of hands, and right now the Auburn Jeep Club has that 5 acres.
I was going to say that's where the AJC property is now.
So the Auburn Jeep Club is sitting on property that 100 years ago was Dobbs Ranch.
Wow.
And if you start crashing around in there, you can find fence pieces with really, really old barbed wire, like you'd see in a museum and that kind of thing.
Nice.
And
sounds dangerous.
Yeah, they had a drift fence across that whole area to keep the cows on their side.
Now, you're talking about Whalebone a little bit ago. Just before you start up the Whalebone, if you look to the right, there's an old abandoned Jeep trail to the right, and it goes around and it goes through a swampy area the Forest Service never liked. And it came out and it went through the corner of this 5 acre parcel. So anyway,
that's right. That's because Whalebones wasn't part of the original trail when this section of the trail opened up.
Right. So when it got moved, then the property owners and the Forest Service and county had to get together and make an agreement on when it went up to
the new route.
Yeah,
the new route. Yep.
And that was 2004.
Gotcha. So they kind of looked at this big rocky ledge and were like, yeah, let's send people up that way.
It wasn't as rocky.
It was as rocky then. Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool. So Ellis Creek, after Ellis Creek, we're starting to come up on, there's a Z turn right there as you're coming up and around. Does that have a name? We just keep calling it the Z turn after Ellis.
I don't think it does have a name. I call it 1.6 because that's the stationing on the county map.
Okay.
But I really don't think it has a name.
Okay.
An interesting sign right there. When you're going through that S turn, if you look to the north, there's a yellow sign on a tree back there, 100 feet or so.
Little tiny one.
And it says, behind this sign is National Forest land, which makes you believe that we're on this side, that we're not on National Forest land.
Yeah.
But that is on the county line, and Forest Service evidently used to have be a boundary for the Forest Service. But before my time, because I've been out here quite a few years, that's all been Forest Service, where you make this
That's Z-turn right there.
Well, that would have been the section line that marked between the Dobbs property and the forest on the north.
Okay, that could be. Okay.
So that makes sense. May be why the sign is there.
Good thinking.
Shortly
we'll go with that. We'll go.
Okay.
With that.
Shortly after that S turn, there's a cross on the side, and it used to have a horseshoe on it, but I noticed that it doesn't anymore. Do you know what?
Bad luck.
Yeah, it was down, which I never quite understood why it was going the wrong way, in my opinion. Do you know what the significance of the cross is?
Yeah, that cross was for a young man who overturned his Jeep there without his seatbelt on in the middle of the night and was killed there.
Yeah.
And that was, that's got to be 10 years ago now?
Probably a little more.
A little more.
Bummer.
Oh, that was 10 years ago. So that was right about that time. So I had a roommate at that time whose sister's husband was that guy.
I think not husband. I think maybe fiance.
Fiance, yeah. Yeah.
Because I knew he had a fiance at that time.
Yeah, I remember my roommate came home and she was not happy. She was kind of pretty worked up, and it was just as I was starting to get into off-roading, and she goes, yeah, my sister's husband, I thought. Fiance was just killed up on the Rubicon in a rollover. So Interesting.
You didn't know about the cross?
I didn't know about the cross. No.
So he had kind of was driving faster than the rest of his crew and had gotten out in front of him, and he waited for him for a while and they still didn't come. Waited for him for a while, they still didn't come. So he made a U-turn and went back towards Ellis Creek to find him. When he got to the spot where the cross is, he saw their headlights coming up around the S-turn there, and said, "Oh, here they are," and made a U-turn.
Tried to do another U-turn.
A little too fast, a little too hard.
Wow.
And went up on that. If you look in that spot, there's a rock on the high side of the trail, and it flipped him, and that was that.
Wow.
Wear your seatbelt.
Yeah.
Please
Please wear your seatbelts. All right. Well, let's move on from that one.
sorry.
Thanks, Jimmy. Next, we're coming up to Walker Hill.
Well, there's maybe one spot in between there we should talk about.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The FOTR bridge. Do you know about that?
I don't know about the FOTR bridge. Somebody has explained it to me, and I still don't understand where it is or what.
So now the FOTR bridge is a what they call I think they call it a bottomless culvert or something like that. So it's half a culvert and the bottom of it's rock. So they bury this half a culvert and then the bottom of it's rock, so it has continuity as far as marine life. The marine life isn't going over a culvert; they're going over rocks.
Okay.
So it's like a stream on the bottom of the culvert. The top of the culvert it's covered with dirt, and then they make the road over that.
Interesting.
So that culvert there was placed by the county in 2012 or something like that, 2013. And before that, there was a wooden bridge, and the wooden bridge was. I should start at the beginning. Back in the day, you just drove through the creek there.
Okay.
You drove through the creek, and there was an environmental group that was complaining about people driving through the creeks and through that creek in particular. So there was a Toyota Owners Association, I think is now defunct, that on an FOTR workday went out there and they decided they were going to put a bridge there. So they flattened some logs and they pinned them together, and they were working on getting them in there so that they would cross the creek. And when they dug the dirt out, they found the footing of an old bridge there and put those logs on the bridge that was the original footing from who knows where.
Really?
Interesting.
So they were placed on that original footing, and I think that probably lasted for 10 years?
Quite a while. Yep.
Yeah, a long time.
Huh.
Is that where the creek is now? Because there is a small little creek that comes down through.
Yeah.
It's that. So that's the FOT.
That's that spot. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But
Okay.
usually you don't see any water running there.
Yeah. Normally,
early in the season. And there was an engineer that worked for the county named Koyman, and Koyman really wanted to name that creek Friends Creek after Friends of the Rubicon. And I think it's a good idea. Well, someone should do that.
Does the creek not have a name right now?
No.
Well, there we go. It's official.
Yeah, we've claimed it.
We're on the podcast here.
Just like Snail Hill.
Schnebley Hill. Yeah. We just schneblied the creek.
There you go. Friends Creek. Got it.
Perfect. Okay, so we got FOTR Bridge, which is now a culvert that you wouldn't really notice if you're driving over it.
You have to look for it, kind of.
Yeah, you got to look for it.
And that's where you cross Friends Creek.
That's where, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And now we're getting to Walker Hill.
That's right.
So where did the name Walker Hill come from? Because that's one of the major obstacles on the Rubicon Trail. I think when people start thinking about the big obstacles on the trail, I think you're talking about Gatekeeper, maybe Whale Bones, and then you get into Walker Hill.
It didn't used to be called Walker Hill.
Okay.
It used to be called Walker Rock, and it was only one obstacle.
Oh, well, now it's like 7 obstacles.
It is.
But you said you called it something else. Was that a personal name?
No. It was also called, when I started, so the thing about the Rubicon is everybody remembers when they started wheeling and what things looked like and how it was, and man, wasn't that cool. So when I started wheeling it in the late 70s, early 80s, Walker Rock was the only part of Walker Hill. The rest of it was not really an obstacle because it wasn't difficult. And where Walker Rock was, there was on the left, there still is a very large tree.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's got a milepost marker on it.
It does. It has a milepost marker on it. And that tree had 2 maybe foot thick or bigger roots that went all the way across the trail, and they were polished on the top, and man, it was hard to get up in. So we called it
I can see that section being pretty difficult if there's some big ass tree roots there.
yeah. So we called it the roots.
Okay.
And I think, and of course the name, when the roots broke off, the name went out of favor and had been called the roots for years. But we called it, just as often called it the roots as we did Walker Rock. But Merlin has more history on Walker Rock than I do.
Well, Chuck Walker, who lived in Sacramento, was Jamboree's rock roller for that area, and he worked it for many years. And so everybody knew Chuck Walker. And when you're a trail guide on the trail, your main object there is just to make sure that nobody gets stuck at your particular spot. So Chuck Walker had these roots, and he would stack a few rocks, place rocks in there, so the Jeeps could just move right on through there. So everybody knew Chuck Walker for many years of service. And then one year he had a medical problem, and he had an operation. I think he had a heart problem. But anyway, he wanted to do a rock rolling the next year, but he wasn't really physically fit. So the Jamboree told him, okay, sure, we'll take you back in there and drop you off. We'll put a little chair up there in the shade of that big tree. And they sent me in to work with him. So, it wasn't much. You just stack a few rocks down there, and as somebody goes through and they spins them out, you have to go down there and fix them up again. But anyway, Chuck was kind of a religious guy, pretty straight-laced and so on. But we got a smile on his face that day. We had a little break in traffic, and then I hear a Jeep coming up, just coming right up through there. A little red Wrangler, no top, but it had a roll bar right behind the driver's seat. And there was a young man, probably 28 or 30, driving. And there was a young lady standing up behind the driver, hanging on the roll bars, just having a good time. She was kind of swaying in the breeze there. And she had a bikini top on and a little shorts. But anyway, when they got up to even with us, she looked up there and she saw both of us. And I was down a little closer to the trail. And she reached back and undone the top.
The top of the Jeep?
The top of her...
the top of the top.
The top of the top. Her top. Okay.
And she's hanging on with her left hand on the roll bar, and she took her top she'd taken off, and she put it in her right hand on her finger, and she's twirling it around in circles, and she's laughing and looking at us as they're going by.
They're bouncing down the trail.
And she's bouncing down the trail. Yeah. And the driver had no idea what his young lady in the back was doing. And Chuck Walker, who was pretty straight-laced, got a pretty good chuckle out of that and a little smile. But anyway, just another Chuck Walker story, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so the Walker Hill is named after a longtime rock roller. At that time, was it both Jeep and Jeepers, or did he only do one?
Oh,
I'm sure he done both. I don't remember. I know
that would have been about when Jeep Jamboree started.
Yeah, they had. It could be. I don't remember the.
I'd have to do
years.
some math.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. But anyway, he was always there for the Jeepers Jamboree.
Jeepers.
I recall he was a car salesman down on Fulton Avenue.
Yep, he lived in South Sacramento, like Foothill Farms area or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he passed here probably 8 or 10 years ago, well into his 80s.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice. That's a good story.
Yeah, that is a good story.
But as the road deteriorated through that section, instead of just having Walker's Rock, people got to call it Walker's Hill because the whole hill was pretty difficult.
Yeah, I'm starting to become a full obstacle there. So at Walker Hill, there's a couple bathrooms, right?
That's right.
At the bottom and at the top. Well, one at the top.
One at the top, one at the bottom.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's another good spot if you guys are traveling along your journey. If you pass Ellis and you're like, oh, I need to use a restroom. We don't want to go back to Ellis. There's a couple there at Walker Hill to use. So
Yep.
You remember that upper bathroom at Walker? Remember putting it up?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. We had some help.
We did. We were.
This young lady in a red Jeep.
No, that might have been nice, but no. The county at that time was really hanging their hat on the bathrooms, and they really wanted to get them up. And we didn't have there's now 10 bathrooms on the trail plus the 2 SMUD bathrooms at
the kiosk.
No, at Walker. Or excuse me, at Buck Island.
Okay.
So there's 10 portable bathrooms on the trail, plus 2 at Buck Island that SMUD put in for
mitigation.
And of course, there's Ellis and Loon.
Okay.
So that at that time, so this was 2013. There was the bathroom at Ellis had been put in, and there was no other bathrooms on the trail. But the county had permission to put in the 10, and they had money to build them, but they didn't have any way to put them in. So, and Rubicon Trail Foundation had the truck to pump them, but they had no way to put these things in. And it was towards the end of the season. It was probably October or November. And Merlin and I were headed in, and I had the bathroom on a trailer on the back of my Jeep, and the county's we got to get this bathroom in. We got to say we put the first one in 2013. It's got to get in. So it's late in the season, and we went in and had a couple of folks help us, and we put the piers in and put the base down. But then we went on to Spider because the piers had to dry. They were concrete.
Okay.
So the next day we came back out, and it was snowing to beat the band. and Merlin and I are looking at each other going, oh man. And we pulled up, and there was a couple folks camped there, had a nice fire going, and we started putting the bathroom together, and they came over and said, what are you guys
doing here?
Did you need a little help?
And they said, well, you need some help? And we said,
nice.
Oh, yes, we do. So these 2 fellas helped us put that bathroom up, and there you go.
Nice.
That's cool.
Look at the off-roaders stepping up and helping out.
Yep.
And a year or 2 later, or a few years later, somebody come up and introduced himself to me and reminded me that he was one of the guys that helped us with the toilet up in the snowstorm.
Nice.
Building a bathroom in a snowstorm. If you look at that upper Walker Hill bathroom, it's quite a bit different than all the rest of the bathrooms because it's a prototype. We learned some stuff from that and changed the other bathrooms.
Got it. Cool. So after Walker Hill, after you get the restroom, you now get the one tree in the trail that emits a cell phone signal for everybody.
Well, not from the tree.
Oh, come on, John. Don't ruin my fun.
I always thought if I held my phone against that tree, it would answer all my emails.
Well, if you look down on the back side of it, down in the roots, there's charging cables for your phone. Yeah.
Okay, good.
You can
Well, there's a section along there, maybe 100 yards or a little more, where people can get out. But as far as I know, Verizon and AT&T are the main 2 that people get out on.
And AT&T is better than Verizon.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you look at the trail that is approaching that kind of cell phone tree, so if you leave Upper Walker, and if you think about it, you're in a kind of a rocky section that goes steep uphill, and it's a little off camber to the right. Where it goes off camber to the right, look to your left, and if you look really carefully, you can see drill marks from the original dynamiting of that section to put the trail in. I don't know how many. I don't know when. Probably when it was a stagecoach road.
It's hard telling when they done that.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Do you think is it like right in the center there between the gully and the right side, or is it?
No, if you look on the
bankment
on the cut.
Ah.
So, there's a cut and a fill in the road. If you look on the cut was done with dynamite, and there's vertical drill holes on the vertical part of the wall there. There's probably 2 or 3 of them. And they used to be very easy to see. And the last time I looked, you really got to study.
Okay.
But
they're there.
Construction work done so many years on that trail, it'd be a hard time
for me to tell
when what era that was done.
But it was, you could barely see them 35-ish years ago when I started running the trail. You could barely see them then, and now you got to
really be looking.
Yeah.
Know what you're looking for. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Cell phone trees right there. Shortly after the cell phone tree, we've got a USGS marker. Actually,
you kind of skipped over Nobie's Rock.
Oh, I did. Yeah. Where's Nobie's Rock at?
So if you for people that have been running the trail more than about 15 years, Nobie's maybe 20 years, huh? When did it fall? 20 years ago?
Probably 20.
Yeah. So that rock Nobie's Rock is the rocky section of the trail with one big rock that you straddle. The rock's on the outside of the trail, and you put your right tires on it as you're going.
Oh,
it's kind of a tight squeeze right there. There's a rock on the left, rock on the right, and you straddle the right one. Okay.
Right.
Very tight.
Yep. So that rock used to be up on the wall, and it fell in a storm.
Oh.
Well, we could see that it was going to fall eventually.
Yeah.
And when it eventually fell, that section had been without a rock roller for years and years and years. And when it fell, they assigned
Nobie,
Noble Sprunger, Nobie, to that section, and that became Nobie's Rock.
Nice. I'm jumping ahead a little bit just because I'm curious. A big rock just fell out above Big Sluice.
Okay.
Is that still there? Is that going to stay there? Or
I have no idea.
Okay. Interesting.
It would literally, it was like shifted, and you could see the gap behind the rock, and now it's causing people to drive wide around it, and it's on that really steep downhill section. You come down from Margarita Tree, and then you turn right, and it's on that section right there. And
that's steep downhill section.
Yeah,
interesting.
A huge rock. Just
when did it fall?
Well, when
it was between the beginning of the season and when we did our listener run.
Yeah. It was between the beginning of the season and now. No.
When did you do your listener run?
It was...
God, when was that? August?
Okay, so I was there in the first week of August, and it wasn't there.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
I don't remember it during Rubathon.
No.
So I wonder if it's got rolled down the hill a little bit.
Maybe.
Anyways, Nobies.
Yeah, Nobie's Rock. So, Nobie. Okay, that's good because I'm like, every time I go through there, I was like, there's not a whole lot of significant stuff around it, but this is a pretty significant spot right here as you get through. If you're a wide axles, full width axles or something, you're going high up on that right rock.
Way up on it, yeah. And it also, the wider you are there, the more it pinches you and the more it pushes you into the downhill rock.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So what about after Nobie's?
Well, that's a marker you mentioned.
The USGS marker. Okay. Yep. And you got to be kind of looking for that one. It's on a rock, almost dead in the middle of the trail.
It's really on the high side of the trail, and when you say it's in a rock, it's really embedded in a boulder.
Yeah.
Probably a 3,000-pound boulder.
Yeah. I'm like, that seems weird to me that they would put a USGS marker in a boulder. I mean, it's probably not going to move anytime soon. But isn't the whole point of USGS markers to have a spot that is definitely not going to be moving?
Yep. And there's different places along the trail where you find benchmarks like that. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of a spot where one has disappeared.
Spider?
Anyway, which one? I can't remember.
The one that's right by the dam at Spider. Remember, it used to have that little mound there, and eventually it just disappeared. And then somebody on Pirate claimed that they probably did legitimately found it in the lake. Well, once it's been moved.
Oh, that was a
corner.
That was a corner.
Yeah.
Quarter corner.
Yeah. Quarter corner. Yep.
A pipe.
Okay.
It had a stamp on the top.
Oh, yes.
I remember
right.
it. Yeah. So the significance of a benchmark over a corner marker is that the benchmark is the starting point for a survey. So it's very exactly placed. Mm-hmm. And they usually put them in high spots. So if you're on the benchmark and you can stand there and look to the left and everything, if you stood on the benchmark and faced south, everything to your left is in the hellhole drainage and the middle fork of the American River. Everything to your right is in the south fork of the American River.
Wow.
And so it's placed there so that you can start surveys in either direction.
Oh,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So everything on the left, when you're facing south there, drains down and towards hellhole and falls into the middle fork.
That's right.
Wow, it's kind of...
And eventually falls into the confluence under the Forest Hill Bridge.
That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And then the other one rolls down over towards El Dorado Hills.
Yeah, down through
Salmon
Coloma,
Falls.
Lotus, and Salmon Falls.
That's right.
Folsom. Huh. Okay, that's pretty cool. From there as well, let's go a little bit further on to Soup Bowl.
Soup Bowl.
How did Soup Bowl get its name? Because I saw some pictures come up on the Facebooks not too long ago of what Soup Bowl originally looked like with the vegetation all on that ledge and up top and everything. And from what I know it as, I'm like, that is not the same thing at all. So where did it get the name Soup Bowl? When did that become an obstacle?
It was a muddy pit.
Oh, okay.
Just before, as you're going towards Rubicon Springs, you're going eastbound on the trail. Mm-hmm. Just as you're approaching Soup Bowl, you go through a little flat, sandy area.
Yeah.
And you'll see there's a nice ditch that the county put in that crosses that, and it drains Soup Bowl.
Actually, I put it in.
So that's named Soup Bowl.
I put it in.
Oh, you put that in?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, John. Somebody else maintains it now, hopefully.
Yeah, somebody else maintains it, but I put it in.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, that definitely, it gets soupy and muddy right there for sure.
So before that ditch was there was a dam made of, if you think about that area, it's meadow and trees and lots of organics and that sort of thing. So before that was there, before that ditch was there, it had a bunch of logs jammed in the sand and embedded in there. And it was built up probably a foot taller than it is right now or more. Mm-hmm. So during the melt, the water would come down there and all the debris would be floating in it. So you'd look like soup. It had a big swirl in the middle of it and logs and leaves and whatever floating in it. It looked like a big bowl of soup.
Interesting. So Soup Bowl is really the mud pit.
Right.
100, 200 feet before the obstacle that we know of.
Not even that far.
Yeah.
Right adjacent to.
Yeah.
So it's it's that close.
It's
okay. I was thinking
it's where a lot of people park
to
watch the people
to stage
it.
for Soup Bowl or watch them or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking at first where you were
So
after the rocky downhill, and there's that flat area where the tree just fell. Fits fairly recently. I was thinking there, but it's after that.
It's right where the obstacle is.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Okay.
Literally.
So it got the name just by proximity, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Huh. Okay.
So how long did it take that ledge to get defoliated by rigs?
A few years.
Yeah, a few years.
Once the first rig went up there, it was just a few years.
Yeah. Wow. That's not good.
It's quick.
It's not good.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not particularly fond of that obstacle because of that. And like I said before, people remember the trail how it was when they first started wheeling. And to you guys, soup is what it is because that's how it's always looked. But to me, it used to be a ledge full of
some pretty cool vegetation.
Yeah, had some white thorn and manzanita.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember seeing that picture and I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, straight south from Soup Bowl is a giant trench in the granite that we talked about last time as well. It's always fun. Ever since you've told me about that, we've been, we go through there and I just kind of take people down. We'll park at Soup Bowl and go hike off into the woods.
So you went and found it.
Yep. It's impressive.
It's pretty impressive.
It's impressive when you think about what people had to do to cut that trench in there.
Yeah, dynamite.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But we've talked about that before. So let's move on from Soup Bowl. We're going to start approaching Little Sluice.
Yeah, there's maybe a couple obstacles in between there. Axel Hill, just past Soup Bowl, it's easy to fall down it, but coming back up it can be troublesome for some rigs.
Is that the one that has like a double hump? And
yeah, the double hump.
Okay.
Right.
That's called Axel Hill.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people call it that.
Okay.
And
I think it's aptly named. There's a lot of people that sit there and spin kind of like at the steps in the bowl and hop. Yep.
Yeah.
I bottom out every time going down that thing. And there's now a rock or a few rocks in there, so I don't go
That's
quite
helpful.
as far down. But every time I just come over, bam.
And I've had my difficulties there.
Oh, yeah.
Also.
Yeah. Okay, that's a fun one. I know that every time if I don't get just the right line coming back up, I sit there and spin for a little bit before I find traction and get up it. So that one's always fun. So Axel Hill, there's another one you said in there.
Winter camp.
Winter camp. Okay, yeah, of course.
So winter camp's there at the bottom of the kind of rocky, scrabbly hill. And it's, I kind of think the pirates named it, but because
I think so.
Because it's a very good camp to stay in during the winter because it's sheltered from the wind.
Yeah, it's kind of down in that gully there.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Is there a name for the camp that's just a little bit past winter camp that's off to the left there, kind of at the base of Little Sluice?
I call it the base of Little Sluice.
That's a good name.
Yeah, I don't think it has a name.
Okay. Yeah.
But I say, people are camped at the bottom of Little Sluice.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Okay. At Little Sluice, as we kind of get there, we've got some more bathrooms. And then you've got Little Sluice with bypass around as well.
Yeah, there's two legal bypasses to Little Sluice. What people call the Toyota bypass, the ramp on the right.
Oh,
Called that?
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, said the Toyota guy. Oh.
That's funny because every time I've seen somebody use it, it's always been a Jeep.
Well, yeah, and I wasn't expecting you to call that one a bypass, so I was expecting another route.
So there's on the map, it's called the Toyota bypass.
Okay.
I don't, if you look in my garage, I've got a Toyota, so I'm not hating.
But you have some nice Jeeps too. So.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So the steep ramp up to the south of Little Sluice is called the Toyota bypass, and that area is open to travel as far as the Carsonites. Okay. And then there's Little Sluice itself, and then the long bypass, which goes around on the kind of vista point, and comes back into the trail at Merlin's Bench. There's also the short bypass, which is on the high side of Little Sluice and kind of looks down on it and then comes down that steep hill. That's not a legal bypass. That's not on the map, and you're not supposed to use it.
Oh, really? Okay.
What it's worth.
That's good to know.
I was thinking that was. I was thinking that was.
Nope. The only legal ones are
okay. The long bypass.
Okay. So we get through Little Sluice. What was the significant?
Jeep Jamboree was running their rigs down this time.
Yes, I think they did.
John Orange runs his rig down there routinely. That's my favorite. That's my favorite route through there. It's the fastest.
I love that route. That little drop there is so much fun.
Yeah, it's the fastest and easiest route through there.
Yeah.
So when the county and the forest were discussing the easement, there was a lot of public input, and the public input on that spot was, we're going to leave the public input on that spot that it was that the users really, really, really wanted Little Sluice to stay open. It was very important to them, and I agree with that. It's very important. Yeah, but they also wanted to have an easy bypass, and the forest was unwilling to have more than one. So if you're going to choose an easy bypass, the one around on the Vista Point is way easier and more useful if you have a broken rig, for example.
Yes, it is.
So 100%. That's why it became the bypass.
Yeah.
And there's 2 points of interest right at the top, like what John's calling the Vista Point. When you go around the long bypass and you get towards the top, on the north side, you'll see a helicopter pad where there's a bunch of rock built up, kind of like gravel rock, and made level, so helicopters can use that for different purposes.
Okay.
Just past that, you get off of Forest Service and you go back into private property again. On the left, there's a tree with usually some flagging tape hanging in it, and people tear down signs, so there's no sign there. But you'll see.
Didn't there used to be a sign that said private property next 1 mile or something like that?
Yes, but that doesn't usually last. So if you look, there are 3 hash marks. In other words, take a spray can and you make 3 hash marks like a sergeant mark. But anyway, they're diagonal right on the property line. So there's also those hash marks on the property lines back in the bowl. I didn't mention earlier.
I have noticed those hash marks in the bowl before, and I just thought that they were just scarring from somebody randomly doing something.
No, that is just you're changing from one property owner to another.
Okay.
So anyway, the helicopter pad and the property line are right close together there.
Okay.
And from there, you're on private property for, again, close to a mile.
Yeah.
So
on 2 different sets of private property.
Yeah, 2 different sets of property owners down there.
The historical, like the naming behind Little Sluice, obviously there's a theme with the Rubicon with the sluice boxes. Do we know which sluice was named first? And then you get, like, was Little Sluice the third one after Old Sluice and Big Sluice, and then this one became Little Sluice? Or was there any rhyme or reason to it?
Lost Sluice?
And Lost Sluice, yeah.
I think probably Old Sluice was the first one.
Just by naming
For many years,
convention,
they
that
never
makes
went
sense.
through the little sluice. You asked what the name of the campground was down to the bottom of the little sluice. If you go in that campground and there's a little swampy lake there, you go around the north edge of that, and that's the way the Rubicon Trail used to go. And it didn't go up by Spider Lake and didn't go around
that Vista Point there.
at Vista Point.
It went down lower. Around. Okay.
It went northeasterly and went down towards the Little Rubicon River, turned left, and went down across the Rubicon River, downstream, cut away from where it crosses now.
Below Dirty Dozen?
Okay, is that the original wagon road?
That's correct.
Gotcha. That's where that starts at. Okay. So I got to remember that next time because I've been wanting to go hike that.
If you hike down there, you can't see the actual path of the wagon road, except in a few places. There's some area where rock has been built up to make the wagon road
passable,
so that there's not too much of a tilt. And there's a couple of spots where it goes between big boulders that you can, because it was a squeeze point. All the wagons had to go through there.
Okay.
When the wagons could kind of scatter out, move side to side a little bit, their tires did not wear the granite
the same groove.
Yeah. At the place John was talking about, because of the rock formation, the big rocks, all the wagons had to get right between there. As a result, the tires are
steel tires. Steel rims.
Yeah.
Think about steel rims over wood.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I know that I've heard that there's a few trails like that in Nevada left over from the Oregon Trail and that where you can see the grooves cut into the rocks from the steel rims on the wagons. Yeah. So. Yeah.
And there's some on Highway 88 on Carson. There's some couple spots that they're deeper. Yeah. They're deeper there because they had more hundreds of vehicles.
Yeah.
Wagons going by.
Interesting.
Okay.
But anyway.
All right. So Little Sluice named just because of the gold history, the mining history, and everyone's like, this is like a freaking sluice box with all the rocks in the bottom of this tight little gorge area.
I would guess so before my time.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
From Little Sluice, we kind of continue on. We obviously we have Merlin's table, Merlin's office, we like to call it. How was that one named?
The table?
Did you have a name for the table?
Sally.
No,
he spent a lot of time there by himself. Maybe he did have a name.
Just down below the table, the road goes down a steep grade, and you come to a lake right in front of you, a pond. Right now, the road turns left just before you get to that pond, and you got a row of trees there. But many years ago, those trees were not there, and the trail went across that pond. You had to stay kind of towards the south side or to the right as you're going easterly. But you went through that and saved that little U-turn that we go through now, going around the pond.
Okay. Is that mud?
It's called Mud Lake on
Mud
the maps.
Lake. There we go. Yeah.
Actually, if you look around at the maps up there, there's about 10 mud lakes.
Well,
okay.
Where you talked about that trench that you went down, the old ditch, down in that area, there are mud lakes.
So
this was just Mud Lake.
That's
singular.
So from Merlin's table down to that sort of U-turn that we're talking about, there was a obstacle there back in the day that's now been marked off. Was that $1,000 Hill?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where that is.
Yeah, and that's not accessible now. You don't go that way.
Cut off. Yep.
I've made it once, way back in the day. I did it. So.
What was the naming behind $1,000 Hill?
I think
was it a bet to make it or
expensive if you went that way?
Oh,
that's what I heard. I heard if you break you're spending $1,000 to fix your rig.
Got it.
I think the reason it got shut down is because not so much broken parts as body work.
Oh.
A lot of people rolled on that. It's very easy to tip over on it.
Well, when the county took over and started maintaining the road, they took a couple people with them, old timers, old four-wheelers, and the county went in there and looked and said, which one? There's so many bypasses. Which is the county road? And when they come to places like this, the county didn't know which one to grade, not grade, but maintain.
Maintain, yeah.
And so $1,000 Hill was out of the picture.
Kind of like some of the bypasses around Little Sluice.
Because when you come up Little Sluice and you go right straight over, and that's where it goes right now, just to the south of the table, and it goes right straight down to the lake.
Yeah.
What's the original path?
Yeah.
Huh.
So
was it?
They tried to get it back on the original path as much as they could.
Yeah.
And that $1,000 bypass opened in the early 80s. I mean, it was only open for
a couple decades.
20 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm learning all sorts of stuff. This is fun. All right. Welcome back to the recording studio, Snail Trail Studio. So much fun.
So awesome.
So much really, really freaking cool information there. A ton of history, a ton of knowledge. I still, right now, as we're sitting down talking about it, I'm still not sure where Friends Creek is.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I can't picture a culvert in the trail.
It's buried.
I obviously, but I mean, yeah, but that's I haven't noticed a spot in the trail where there's a culvert sticking out the side over there.
Yeah.
So
next time we're out, I'll point it out to you.
Yeah.
I know right where it's at.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely, there's so much I want to go back on the trail right now and go look at some of these things, some of these places, some of these points of interest. Yeah, man, super cool sitting down with them. We had a lot of fun with it. Hopefully everybody listening had a lot of fun with it and got to, learn about some more of these things. I know that we have quite a few locals that listen to the podcast that are going to be swarming up to the trail now to check out some of the points of interest.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it was a lot of fun. We've said it before, but thank you guys again for sitting down with us, John and Merlin. And part 2 will be out tomorrow. We wanted to break this one up a little bit. Otherwise it'd be 3+ hours,
3.5 hours,
3.5 hours long. So we'll break it up. So the second half, second half of the podcast, but maybe 2/3 of the trail, is going to be from Little Sluice to pretty much Tahoma.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that will be out tomorrow.
Yep. So if you guys have any feedback that you want to leave, if you want to leave some reviews over on iTunes, make sure you do that. We still have the giveaway going on for the winch. We have a voicemail that you can call in and leave some feedback if you want. 916-345-4744. You can always email us. I have some emails to get to, apparently. I just pulled it up and I was like, oh, some people were emailing over the past week. So we'll get to those quick. Jimmy's a lot better about checking his email than I am. But you can always reach us on Instagram as well. So that's 4x4 Toyota Tyler and Snail Trail 4x4. So I guess without further ado, Jimmy, do you have any final words for everybody?
Snail Hill.
And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do skeletons order at a restaurant?
Boneless wings?
Spare ribs.
Oh, dang it.
Why don't the skeletons go to the movies?
Because they don't have the stomach for it?
That's a good one. They didn't have the guts. But I've always heard that one.
Yeah, there you
go. Why didn't the skeleton cross the road?
That's the one that I've heard, yeah.
That's good. The stomach for it works. What do you call a skeleton who goes out in the snow?
Cold. Chattering. Chatterbones? I'm going to go chatterbones.
A numbskull.
Numbskull. Okay.
Who won the skeleton beauty contest?
Skeletor.
Nobody.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Where do skeletons go to have fun at night?
The club? The bone club? I don't know. Something club.
Anywhere, as long as it's a hip joint.
Okay.
Do you know any skeleton jokes?
Apparently not as many as you.
Yeah, but you wouldn't find them humorous.
No.
What's the skeleton's favorite song?
Ain't got no body to love.
Bad to the Bone.
Bad to the Bone. Okay.
Why can't skeletons play church music?
I don't know.
Because they don't have any organs.
Okay. No, you're done. No more.
Why did the skeleton start a fight?
I don't know.
Because he had a bone to pick.
Yeah. I think technically he had 256 bones. A bunch. 264 bones? I don't know how many bones. I don't remember how many.
What's the skeleton's favorite musical instrument?
The saxophone. The trombone.
Yay! We'll stop there.
Okay.
Good job.
I finally got one.
I think, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
A lot of people assume that I tell the joke at the end of the episode.
Oh, really? After everything?
Mm-hmm. Okay. But I don't. What actually happens for you listeners out there is I use a joke as my audio check, and then we kind of adjust the levels. Mm-hmm. And that's so you can hear how high I get, and I can see how loud Tyler gets if he giggles or laughs. And we can adjust the board. Uh-huh. So, and then we usually cut that out of the audio at the beginning, and then we put it at the end. So it doesn't happen. I don't tell a joke at the end of when we're done recording it. Actually, it's the first thing that we usually do.
You just ruined the facade for everybody out there.
Oh, sorry.
And now everybody's like,
well, the joy of editing is I'll just cut that section out.
Yeah, perfect.
Just like we do with the joke.
Right.
And we'll move it.
You should take that part and put it at the end after the jokes.
Okay, deal.
Yeah.